Meet the country stars of tomorrow. This is b4Nashville, the podcast. Here's your host, George Davis.
And it's another episode of b4Nashville Live, where we bring you the country stars of tomorrow to the country fans of today. And I've got with me tonight, this guy hails from Middle Tennessee. He's got a great backstory, and he's got some great music, and we're going to talk about every bit of it in the next hour. I've got Jacob Melton with me. Jacob, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you?
Doing awesome, my man. Doing awesome. So we give me a little backstory about you. I mean, I know you come from Middle Tennessee. I know there's some other nice little tidbits in there you can share with us.
Well, yes, I'm about originally an hour east of Nashville. So, it's always been close by. Started coming to Nashville and doing the whole songwriter thing when I was 20, but I was kind of more focused on rock at that time. Growing up, I come from a very musical background on my mom's side, and my great-grandfather, played bluegrass until the day he died, which was about back in November, but, he was 92. So he lived a great life.
He did.
And then my grandfather played, classic rock, bass for 30 years. So I have this wide range of musical spectrum that I've kind of just, taken bits and pieces of and try to create my own sound with it. So, like I said, come to Nashville about when I was 20, joined CSAC as my PRO, and the guy that was over the songwriters and stuff, he was like, man, you got to start playing out. So that's what I did. I focused probably, the next 8 years playing out, performing, mainly covers, but, trying to throw in my own original stuff as often as I could. And
Right.
Finally, once that burned out, I got back to really focusing on the songwriting and starting to make connections again in Nashville. So been doing that for about 4 years now. And it's starting to take off a little bit, I feel like, finally.
Yeah. So which do you enjoy more? Do you enjoy songwriting, or do you, and this is probably a dumb question, but I'm going to ask, songwriting or performing?
Oh man, it's hard to say, because songwriting is where the creativity's at, right? Being able to create and manifest a story and making something enjoyable that people can relate to. But transitioning that and seeing it relate to people in person whenever you perform live is a tremendous feeling as well. So I can't pick. I love doing both. I love the whole studio process and watching a song from whenever you first write it, and you got an acoustic demo, and then you hear it, full band and fully produced on a track, and then people's responses and stuff, and then when you play it live, and that I wouldn't trade one for the other, I don't think.
I hear you. I hear that's a good question. I like that. I mean, I like the fact that you get into both. I mean, it never hurts if you're writing a song and somebody else decides, you pitch it to somebody and they go, hey, we're going to record it.
Yeah, that's happened almost a couple of times with some of my earlier stuff, for sure.
Oh, yeah. Well, and the good thing about that, as a starving musician, at least it puts a little bit of change in the pocket.
It's at least gets you, I guess, some street cred around Nashville, for sure, right?
Right. So when you were performing, where were you doing a lot of performing at? Just around Nashville proper?
Everywhere, Middle Tennessee. We'd go whenever I was doing the whole live, full band stuff. We would go anywhere from Knoxville to Chattanooga to Memphis. So it was pretty much, statewide, and then, northern Alabama, Georgia, stuff like that, or southern Kentucky kind of deal. So.
Right. So do you feel like that your fan base is centered around the South right now? I know you want to expand that, and that's probably what I'm to do.
I feel like it's kind of spread out the way that that I've kind of introduced my music to the country world. Because I released my first album, or EP rather, 3 weeks after the whole world shut down this past April.
Right.
So everything's been social media or radio, and whenever I put out my first single to country radio, it got spread around, right? So I feel like I have a pretty decent following in Michigan, and some northern states as well as Texas and southern states. Right.
Right, right. So you're getting a really good following all over, and that's a great thing. I mean, you're working up in the kind of the I guess you call it the northern area, and then you've got the southern. Not
Sure.
you're working your way over to the eastern seaboard. I'm sure.
Yeah, I was played in New Jersey, so I got some
Okay.
fans up there. They know there's a few people that know of me at least up there,
Right.
and Canada too. I've had a lot of responses from people up in Canada and done some podcasts and stuff from some groups up there. So
Right.
yeah, crossing country lines.
Getting that international thing going on
That's
there.
right. That's right.
So now you grew up in Middle Tennessee, but now correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't you go to college at wasn't it Cleveland State, home of the Vikings?
I did. I did. I played college basketball for a season, and it was a good experience. I enjoyed it, and it was just one of those things. That basketball was my first love. Sports. I grew up playing sports, so if I wasn't playing basketball or baseball rather, or both, I played both throughout high school, but college basketball. And anytime I wasn't playing sports, I was picking on a guitar and playing music. So especially in high school,
Right.
anything but schoolwork,
Right. The only schoolwork you did was working on getting the girls because they loved you.
Hey, that's why I learned to play guitar.
Exactly. Works out better than sports a lot of times.
A lot of you can play it longer.
Right. Right. Now we talked a little bit about your EP and the fact that you released it, like you said, right before the world shut down. That might be a good song for the next one. You could use that for a title.
Hey, that would be a good title, wouldn't it? When the world shut down.
Yeah. I listened to some of the songs, and we're going to play one here in just a little bit. But one of the songs in particular, and this is the one that is streamed the most on Spotify, is it's 90 Proof and Smooth. And here's what I wrote down about that song because I like to write down little notes about songs. It had kind of an Eric Church feel to it for me.
I
Had
can
the
see that.
choir, kind of the with the choir. It's talking about. Now I might be on the wrong one here. I've got two of them written down here. So if I'm wrong, you tell me, and then we'll
That's
get to
all
the.
right. It did have a choir. 90 Proof and Smooth did have a choir. I know that.
Okay, and it was about growing up.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
it's a remember when kind of song.
Okay. And it had the slide guitar in it, and that kind of gave me the Eric Church feel. I mean, with the choir and the big production,
Oh
it
yeah.
just felt like Eric Church,
I was whenever because me and Adam Schofield, which is my producer,
Mhm.
he's also Tim McGraw's guitar player,
Right.
and I think he's up for like ACM Guitarist of the Year, so he knows what he's doing. But when we wrote the song, and that was one of the first ones that whenever I got introduced to Adam, that we sat down and worked on together and wrote it together. He was really thinking either Eric Church or Kid Rock, and Kid Rock's currently working on a new album, and it made like right before the final cut. It was one of the last songs for him to say he didn't want to do. So at least that gave me enough confidence to be like, you know what, I think I'll just put it out myself and just see what happens.
There you go. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Who knows? Maybe that one song would someday make you bigger than Kid Rock.
You never know. That'd take a lot, but I'd be okay with it.
You can have your own multi-level club, hotel.
Oh
everything.
yeah, I mean,
Broadway yourself.
even the name itself, like, I mean, I might be getting ahead of myself, but I'm pretty sure the next step after you become famous is you start your own like, whiskey or some kind of alcohol, and I'm pretty sure 90 Proof and Smooth would be a perfect name for that. So I've got this already planned out. It's just gonna happen.
You've thought it through, and I will tell you this: you put that alcohol out, I will buy it. Just so you know. So, what kind of? I mean, with the different songs that you've had, I mean, I'm just going to run through some of these right now, and I'm not trying to get ahead, but I just want to kind of go over some of these before we get into the one that we're going to play, which is the latest single, "Pass It Around."
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, we'll talk about "Pass It Around" right before we get into that. But some of the other songs that you have on your Spotify, now you've got 6 songs on the EP, and then you got about 3 other songs on Spotify.
Right.
So I listened to some of the songs. There's one that's called "Yours or Mine." It's kind of a softer side.
It is definitely different for me as far as vocally,
Mhm.
uh, and just the feel. But I felt like it was a good enough story when we wrote it that it needed to
Right.
be told, and I was willing to kind of put myself out there and kind of show how versatile of a vocalist that I can be as well.
Right. And that's I mean, that's a real good song. You've got "Any More," which is a heartbreak song.
Yeah, yeah, that's one of those. You know, you're in a relationship, but you're like the third wheel of that relationship.
You're kind of hanging hope out there somewhere.
Right,
Going,
right. And,
okay,
you just get to the point where it's just not worth it. But
yeah. It's kind of like a Toby Keith, or was it Toby Keith, "That Ain't My Truck," or was that Rodney Atkins?
that's
You know,
right.
is that Rodney Atkins?
I think it might have been. I think my
Yeah,
that's a long time ago.
yeah, that's back in the '90s.
Oh yeah, that's a
I'm a
classic.
country child in the '90s, so. But I mean, it's kind of like that when you're wanting to be one of the guys there. Uh,
You're definitely vying for her affection.
right. Concrete Rodeo. It's let me see here. I don't have my glasses with me. Um, so it's kind of a tempo song, and it's more or less, you meet somebody in a bar, and y'all just
Right.
kind of hit it off and things
So
like
so
that.
that is my song. It is my fastest tempo song. Upbeat, fun, dance to kind of song. But it's really a song about Nashville
Okay, yeah,
because it has a lot to if you've ever been to Nashville on a weekend, especially before everything happened,
right,
it's just crazy, and you see all these parties of people just having a blast, right? So in my mind, I saw it in the way that I wrote it, and the way that I would like to actually make a music video of it is, you know, actually being the limo driver, and you're just driving these girls around this bachelorette party, and you don't
right.
really get to hang out with them, but in your mind, like you're fantasizing.
That's pretty good. I like that one. Living This Lie got a little bit of a rock vibe to it there.
It's kind of more bluesy for sure.
Okay.
It's got a lot of angst to it, but
Hmm.
it's kind of sultry and sexy at the same time. So that's probably my favorite off the EP,
Right.
personally, just because it has such a different vibe uh, than anything else I've wrote.
Yeah. And I will tell you, none of the songs on here, I was like, I can't listen to them. I listened to them over and over, as a matter
Well,
of fact.
good, good, and I
Yeah.
really strive, and I feel like I've succeeded at this. Is you don't feel like you're listening to the same song 5 or 6 times, right? Like I want you to each song is going to be different and take you to a different place, and not feel like you're just listening to the same track over and over.
Right. And that's to me, that's a great album. I don't like it to sound the same across the board. I want it
Exactly. You got to take on you
to
got to take listeners on an emotional roller coaster, and
yeah.
you got to give them highs and lows and just different sounds, and because it's hard. People have short attention spans, so
They
you got to
do.
be able to keep them on their toes.
And they get shorter every day. That's that
Yeah,
part about it.
I believe that
Uh,
100%.
Now this is one, this kind of goes back to your early years, because you talked about being, kind of a rocker early on. Um, Feel My Heart Go. Now this is what I've got on it. You've got heavy drums, you've got cranking guitar, and it sounds to me like there's a riff that is reminiscent of Ozzy Osbourne.
There's a lot more. That was one of my earlier songs, and I did that with a different producer, and it
Mhm.
was definitely more on the rock side. But it's still, told a story, and it is one of those fast up tempo, and I felt like had a good melody, so I was like, I'm still gonna put it out anyway.
Right,
Gotta get my name out there, and get people just to listen, right? Like
right.
if it's quality and I feel like it's worthy to be heard, I want to put it out. So
Well, again, that kind of takes them back, like you said, on that emotional roller coaster. So if they're listening,
exactly.
got that fun, almost a headbanging song. I mean, this thing is, like I said, it's got some heavy drums like
Oh
from
yeah.
like 90s, 80s, 90s, well, probably more 80s hair metal.
Yeah, it probably does have a little more, and it's got some electronics, and if you listen to a lot of the newer stuff, is kind of void of electronic drum sounds.
Right.
But there is a lot of artists that even in country that put in a lot of electronic drums and
Right.
electronic sounds in general. So I don't think it's too far out of the realm.
Right. A lot of them now use the snap or the clap,
Mhm.
That's a big thing that I've read people who like it, some people that don't, but at the
You
bottom
never
line,
nobody is gonna like every single song
oh
that
yeah.
you put out as an artist, but if you keep listening enough, you're gonna find the one that hits you just right.
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely. I agree with that 100%. Um, so let's talk a little bit about the sound that you have because it's kind of a varied sound. I mean, you go from rock to blues to just kind of a laid back, you know,
Country sound.
yeah, exactly. If you classified the majority of your music, how do you feel like you would classify it? Would it be country rock, country pop, country, classic country?
It's definitely borders that country rock. I call it almost an alternative country.
Okay.
So I feel like I'm almost like a redneck Rob Thomas. In a sense, I blend a lot of. I grew up. I'm a '90s kid, so I grew up listening to alternative rock of the '90s and
Mhm.
grunge and just the whole transformation. And I really started digging country probably around Gary Allen and really I don't know. I feel like the older you get, you grow up more and you start realizing how good country actually is.
Yeah.
And more so than what's playing on, because used to pop wasn't pop, it was rock, right? That's
Right.
what all the kids listen to, and then now it's pop, but there's no substance, there's no deeper lyrical content where people can really hear a story. That's what I
Oh, yeah.
feel from pop, and I'm not saying that's bad, because I mean you get a melody stuck in your head, it doesn't really matter what you say, you're gonna hum it. So for me, growing up and listening to what I did, I feel like I've been shaped by so many different genres, all the way from hard rock to bluegrass. And so my sound is definitely, I would say, alternative country. I feel like I might be almost Nashville's answer to red dirt country, that's coming out of Texas and stuff.
Right. Right. So with that being said, let me ask you this real quick, because who are some of the influence that you had? You mentioned Rob Thomas, you mentioned Gary Allen, and some of the
After
other.
that, really, Jason Aldean, he had a lot of rock influence,
Mhm.
especially on his earlier stuff, Hicktown, and then My Kind of Party, and Brantley Gilbert came in with a lot of his, rough sounding country that
Right.
it's what I wanted. I needed at the time. I was like, man, where's this been? I was like,
Right.
but then country started, because everything shifts, everything kind of bounces around and goes back and forth. And I feel like we're at a point now where pop country is getting so played. Everybody's that's why people are going to the Texas country sound and these alternative, kind of artists away from that pop country, just because, people, they've heard enough of it. They want something new. So.
Right. Well, it's like you said, you don't want to hear the same thing over and over again. You want to get a little taste of something different. So you
Right.
get some of that, that Nashville alternative, and you put that in there and line it up alongside some, Tyler Childers or Cole Wetzel or some of those guys.
Whiskey Myers, a lot of those guys,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I feel like I would fit right in. I think it'd be a heck of a bill for all of us to play on the same stage one night. That would be killing.
Yeah, one of my favorite artists, Cody Jinks, is one of my favorite artists.
He's storming up too. He's doing a great job. He's got a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, he's got some of that Texas almost.
He does.
He's almost like an outlaw, like a modern day outlaw, like throwing it back to Waylon and Willie. I'm trying to.
He is definitely he is that outlaw on the more traditional country kind of side, I feel like.
Yeah.
And then Cole Cole Wetzel, he's definitely, I feel more like me, almost even more so on the 90s alternative side.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like I'm a good mix.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to mix all of it together, this is what you get right here.
Yeah. And so did that kind of flow over into your writing influences as well?
It does. It has. You know, as far as writing influences, you know, of course I grew up with the alternative, but it's what I've been listening to a lot lately. It's definitely Cole Wetzel. Like I said, Whiskey Myers, and then also other bands. I don't know if you've heard of Anderson East.
Mm-hmm.
He's almost, you know, he's got kind of a big band kind of sound, a lot of horns and stuff like that.
Right.
Tyler Childers, of course, and then another band that I feel like is completely underappreciated is a band called City and Color.
Okay.
And I don't know if you've heard of them, but they have just this alternative kind of sound. But his writing style and just his vibe is, he has more of a higher end on his vocal range and softer sound. But you know, I take it all in, and whatever I'm feeling at that time, whatever I feel like I need to say, that's how my songs come out.
Right. Well, and I took a second there because you mentioned City and what was City and Color? Is that what it was?
Yeah, COLOUR. And
I've never heard of them, and I love to hear new bands all the time. I mean, I've got that's kind of what I do. I just like to introduce folks to those new bands.
Yeah. Well, you check them out. They definitely got a bluesy kind of sound on a lot of their stuff. And he was actually in an alternative band that had success in probably the 2000s called Alexis on Fire.
Right.
But he's a stellar musician, and definitely one to check out.
Right. Okay. Well, I'll check them out. Now, here's a fun question that I like to ask, and it's always one that it's a difficult one sometimes for some folks, and other folks, man, they fire it off real quick. But if there was one song that you thought to yourself, man, why did I not write that song?
How recently?
You just as far back or recent as you want to go.
Oh man, if there was one song, I'm like, why didn't I write that song? It would probably be Hinder's "Lips of an Angel."
That's a great song.
Because I mean, you play that for any girl, and you know, they just melt, right? Like I'm like, man, that's perfect. I should have wrote that.
Yeah, there you go. I was actually in rock radio when that song was released, so that was pretty cool.
That is awesome.
Loved it. It was one of my favorite. So let me ask you real quick. How long have you been in Nashville?
So I moved from Woodbury to Nashville right around 4 years ago.
Have you had any letdowns in that time?
I mean, you know, only 5 or 6 a day, you know.
What's the biggest, and what do you feel like you've learned from that?
Oh, well, the biggest letdown, there's so many. You feel like you're getting somewhere. The biggest letdown probably for my career to this point was whenever I was going to release the album. Mm-hmm. I'd won an opportunity from Reverb Nation. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Reverb Nation, but if you subscribe to their premium service, you can submit your songs to opportunities and stuff. And I'd gotten selected by The Boot. I don't know if you've heard of The Boot publication, but they have, you know, 300,000 monthly subscribers and stuff like that, and they were going to do a world premiere on whichever song off the EP they like best, and was really looking forward to hopefully a lot of people finding out who I was. And like literally a week before the song release, I got an email saying, I'm sorry, but due to you know, COVID and you know, everybody was running scared. You know, any kind of publicity, they were cutting things way down. Nobody was spending money, and they're like, we just can't move forward with you know, the budget cuts that we've made because of COVID. And I was really tore up about it. You know, I was like, is there any way? Can I give you some cash? Please just put this thing out. But you know, it hadn't worked out. But I did recently reach back out to them, and they are willing to, you know, uphold the opportunity. And next single I put out, they think they will, you know, if they like it, of course, they will, you know, publicize it.
Right. Well, that's great, man. I'm super excited for you on that, and I hope that works out because I knew they were doing that, and I never heard what had happened with it. So
yeah, they recently just started it back, I believe. So
okay. So let's move ahead 10 years.
okay.
Okay, we're gonna be kind of aspiring here. 10 years. You are signed to a contract. You're headlining stadiums around the world, not just in the U.S., around the world. You get to hand select who your two opening acts are going to be. Who are those two opening acts?
If I select my opening acts, well, you know, if I could pick two people to open for me, which is this, this is funny because it's, you know, it's not going to happen. But I would totally, you know, I don't want to disrespect those people because I admire them so much.
And I don't think it would be, I mean, honestly, I don't know that they would be disrespected. I think they'd actually be, you know, feel like that they were admired. And to me, that's the way I look at this question. I think it's one that these,
if I could do a show with anybody, you know, I would totally do Eric Church and Luke Combs.
Wow. A couple of great guys.
I would love to open for them. So if y'all are seeing this, give me a call.
That was the next question, so we got that one answered. If you could open for anybody, who would it be? So now we know.
Definitely Luke Combs at this point. You know, maybe 2 weeks ago I would have said Morgan Wallen, but
yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to put my personal take on that one, but
no, we'll just leave it being.
Yeah, but you know, it's Nashville, and this is one piece of advice that I give to a lot of young artists who may not really know the ins and outs of Nashville, because Nashville is a pretty rough town.
It is cutthroat because there's so much competition. I mean, it is, you got to be on your toes and on point.
Yeah, and
all the time.
You got to remember that if you're a star, you are videotaped, you are recorded. There are things all around you constantly.
Absolutely. You have got to not, you can't ever let your guard down and pretend like you're in the comfort of your own home.
Right.
Never.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it right there. So let's talk a little bit about the single, which you just, now this is the one that you just released, Pass It Around.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Okay, give me a little bit on the backstory of Pass It Around. Where did it come from?
Well, a buddy of mine from, you know, back home, actually, he plays, you know, acoustic shows and does his own thing, covering. I feel like he's a younger version of me, really.
Right.
And he's like, man, I got this song. I don't know really what to do or you know, where to go with it, because he had like maybe a first verse and a chorus. And so I was like, well, you know, shoot it over to me. Let's, you know, let me listen to it and see if we can do anything with it. And I heard it. And I was like, well, there is something there, because I really liked, he had the melody of the verse on the first verse is pretty much the same of where it originally was. Right. And, you know, my writing style, I don't typically try to do songs where the chord progression stays the same throughout the whole song. So I kind of mixed and messed around with it and created this chorus, and I came up with this line, but I got a memory. Let's pass it around.
Right.
And that kind of just stuck with me. So, we went and built the second verse and the bridge around that chorus, that new chorus that we created together. And it just kind of fit. And, I always say, like, a good country song will give you memories that you didn't even have.
Right.
That, like, even if you never experienced it, you're like, man, that was a good time. I remember that. So, and I really got that feeling from this song. And I told Adam, I was like, man, we wrote this song. I think it needs to be cut, even as a single, if you got time to do it. And just so happened, 2 weeks down the road, he had a session going where he was going to do a couple other people's, just singles, and was able to throw mine in and us get it in. So I was really excited to do that. And got to work with Dan Frizzell on it. He did the engineering work and played bass on it, which Dan Frizzell produces all Lee Brice's stuff. So
Right.
it was really cool to get him in on it. And then we've, struck up a friendship, and us three's been doing some writing here recently, and we've got some more stuff that I'd like to put down on tape pretty soon.
Right. And before I jump to the song, because I want to play that real quick, but before we jump to that, I got to ask, how did you and Adam run across each other?
I actually met Adam at a Christmas party. Girl I was seeing went to, it was her. So her brother is actually married to Adam's wife's sister, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So it's one of these, what is it? The Kevin Bacon thing where,
Right. 7 degrees.
7 degrees of Kevin Bacon. And
Right.
he ended up being at this party, and which he's married to Katie Cook,
Right.
who does all the CMT, Hot 20 Countdown, stuff like that. But her dad's Roger Cook. So that's whose house we were actually at. And Roger Cook is, in the Songwriters Hall of Fame. He wrote, I guess the thing he is most known for is Teach the World to Sing, the Coca-Cola.
Right. The jingles.
Yeah. He everybody knows that song. And then I was trying to think, my favorite song that he wrote is probably Long Cool Woman in a Black Dress. So right. It was cool when we all hung out and he played piano and we sang Christmas carols, and this was like 4 years ago, but it was awesome. And Adam, we talked about music, and he's like, yeah, send me your stuff. I'll listen to it. I was like, okay, well, at least he'll listen. I didn't think he would, actually like any of it, but he's like, yeah, man, I dig your sound, and let's set something up to write. So, and it's just kind of grown from there.
That's awesome, though. I mean, you get some heavy hitters there, which is cool. I mean, so.
I'm trying my best. I'm trying my best to surround myself with the most talented, good set of people that really pushes you to excel. And I feel like the more you can surround yourself by good people, the better chances you have of success.
Exactly, especially in that industry, because, man, I tell you, like you said, it is cutthroat.
It is, and and there's so many people vying for so many select spots, but I finally feel like that people are finally starting to whisper a little bit, asking around who's this Jacob Melton fella,
Right.
So hopefully, I've got a couple of labels right now listening to my unreleased stuff, so you never know.
Hey, it could happen anytime now.
They could call me tomorrow. They probably won't, but they might.
Hey, they might after this podcast. Who knows? I'm taking way too much credit. But you've got your latest song. It's called "Pass It Around," and this it's kind of a summer cruising around song.
I feel like it's one of those windows down kind of songs.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I'd like to really push this one out to radio if I could. It's really just a question of funding. If I could do anything I want, it'd already be there. But definitely coming up spring would be a great time to put it out to country radio and really get people hearing it and listen to it, because I feel like it would it would resonate well with a vast audience. It doesn't really matter what age you are on this song. You know,
Right.
college to 60, you're going to be like, yeah, I can feel that, you know?
Right. Well, I tell you what, let's give them a little bit of it real quick. Before Nashville being brought to you by GoGo Tuners. It's a great tuner. You got to check it out. They've got some great technology in it. GoGoTuners.com. Go check them out. Here's Jacob Melton. This is, I have to look back at my notes because it just passed. It just passed right around. It just passed it around. Just pass it around right out.
Pass it around.
So it's called Pass It Around on Before Nashville.
Introducing the country.
That was not it. Let's try that again. There we go.
What the hell happened last night? It's been the story of my life. And if I know me, I'm probably still not done. And this one's for folks like me. When last call ain't at 3. No, we don't stop until that morning sun. So grab a cold one and sit on there. Let's talk about how we all ran this town. And nobody's saying that we've settled down. But I got a memory, let's all pass it around. I crossed that line of time on 3. It's how it goes being life of the party. Don't throw stones, no, just roll with me. And grab a cold one and sit on there. Let's talk about how we all ran this town. And nobody's saying that we've settled down. But I got a memory, let's all pass it around. Come on. Bad ideas make some of the best time. Like rolling back roads, throwing bottles at stop signs. Looking for trouble, oh yeah, most of the time. Coming in the form of soft blue eyes.
Out.
So grab a cold one and sit on there. Let's talk about how we all ran this town. Nobody's saying that we've settled down. But I got a memory, let's all pass it around. I got a memory, let's all pass it around.
And that's Jacob Melton. It's called Passing Around, introducing the country stars of tomorrow to the country fans of today. And that right there is, it's a hella good song, man.
Thank you. Thank you.
And like I said, I've listened to all your stuff, and I think it's all really good. I mean, you just got...
I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, the sound you have, I love the sound of that one. I could hear so much in that one. That was just kind of a, like you said, that summer vibe. Put the windows down, take the top off the Jeep, you know.
Oh, yeah. That's definitely when you're going to play around a bonfire, for sure.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I just bought a new Ford F-150 the other day, and I guarantee in the springtime, that's going to be on my Crank It Up playlist. So,
well, you let me know when you're going to have a bonfire. I'll travel out to Missouri and hang out with you.
My wife and I have been talking about that, so we're hoping we get to do that before, too. Of course, it's not going to be anytime real soon.
Well, it needs to warm up a little bit.
Yeah. At least get up into, warm up about 60 degrees.
60 is good.
Right now. But yeah, man, that's just it's a really good song. Now, you said you played in around Nashville, you played other venues around. What's the one venue that is just really your favorite? The one venue that you just go, I love going there and playing.
Well, the ones that I've played, probably Third and Lindsley is
Yeah.
probably one of my favorite in Nashville. Uh, the place I want to play most is the Ryman.
Ah,
Well, that and the Grand Ole Opry, it's like 50
right.
50 split on, but there's so much history at the Ryman. Like that's the Grand Ole Opry, I feel like is definitely, the mecca of country music,
Right.
but the Ryman itself is like the mecca of all music. Like that's
Yeah.
one of those holy grail kind of places that every musician, no matter what genre you want to play,
Oh yeah. I mean, when you walk into what's called the Mother Church of Country Music, I've been to shows there and it's just
it's a different feeling.
oh it
It's
is.
it,
It's
it,
absolutely.
it is every bit. I don't care who's playing. If you're in Nashville, it doesn't matter who's playing. You go to a show. That is an
Yeah.
experience that you need to experience.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's just super, super cool. I mean, we've loved every show we've been to there, and I think the last one we were at was a CRS show where UMG did their luncheon, and they
Oh,
had
nice.
Luke Bryan, Eric Church, Lady
Yeah.
A, Dirk Bentley.
Are you
God,
just trying to make me mad? Made me jealous. I am okay.
hey, all right. I'll back off with that. But yeah, I mean, we love going there and just catching shows. It's so much fun.
It is. It's a blast.
And so you're kind of in the role right now of sticking with the EP you have. Are you heading back to the studio anytime soon to start working on stuff?
I really want to, and I feel like this is probably going to happen regardless if I get signed or not. Is
Right,
I'll at least at the minimum I want to put out another EP,
right.
maybe by late summer or early fall. Um, that is the goal. Take any kind of circumstance out. I really want to get more out, and I'll make it happen regardless. But I love somebody else's help to help really bring this thing to fruition. But that's the plan. I've got about 8 to 10 songs that I'm considering that I've wrote since writing more songs here on the second half of this past year and the beginning of this year, and I feel really good about them too. Like I know I've been kind of honing in, my sound, and I feel like these songs that I've wrote recently really they straddle that line pretty perfectly for me as an artist of that rock and country. They have a lot of country in it, but at the same time, it still has that rock edge. So I'm really excited about what all I got to put out next, and I think a lot of people would dig it.
Well, and I'm hoping so, man, because I tell you, like I said, I'm already digging on what you got so
Well,
far.
thank
It's
you,
really
thank
good
you.
stuff. Really good stuff. And I know a lot of the folks that listen to Before Nashville, you're exactly what they're looking for.
Oh, well,
You're right there in that wheelhouse of just, my thing is, and I've got a lot of friends that are in radio. That's what I do during the day. I've got a lot of friends that are in major market radio and stuff. But one of the things that I feel like some radio has lost is what people go to radio for, and that's music discovery. They want to hear
right.
new artists. They want to hear Jacob Melton, and guys that aren't getting, you know,
That's right.
2010 today.
I totally understand that. I feel like from my experiences in town, there's a lot of people who, to their detriment, I feel like, are trying to sound like somebody's on that's already on the radio,
Right.
and that's probably the last thing you want to do, is try to sound like somebody else. At least that's how I feel, you know.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna be me. I ain't gonna come in with a stage name. That's my real name's Jacob Melton. I'm just who I am, and that's what I'm always gonna be. And hopefully, listeners can respect that.
And same way with your music. I mean, the music tells who you are, and
Right. It's
a lot of people are gonna like it. I mean, I really feel they will.
Ah.
Um, so here's one of the things that I like to do because I want to know what you're listening to. Now, we talked a little bit about this already,
Mm-hmm.
but what I call this the iPhone top 10. What are
Okay.
the top 10 artists that you're listening to right now, or songs? You can go either route.
Oh, like I said, City and Color. Who else have I been? I have listened to Morgan Wallen's Dangerous album quite a bit. It has several really good songs on it. Just from my ears, listening to it. Anderson East, like I said. But then I go back because this is just who I am. Like I've been listening to a ton of Bob Seger lately.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of my favorites. Boston. I listen to everything.
Right.
I'm listening to it all and trying, because I mean I don't think there's probably been a better time in music, as far as that classic kind of sound, and that Muscle Shoals kind of deal, and that's why I feel like Bob Seger, and it's the stories too, because he still told great stories too on all his songs.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, man, where is that today? And so that's probably who I've been listening to a lot is those guys, all of them that I've mentioned.
I really like Seeger, and the song that is my absolute all-time
What's your favorite Seeger song?
Turn the Page.
That is a classic. I mean, when Metallica covers it, I mean, it's a classic.
Exactly.
I think mine, which Turn the Page is up there, but I really like my two favorite. I can't just go one, but I like Against the Wind a lot.
Yep.
But Fire Lake is pretty awesome as well, and it's not one of his most popular, but I really like just the groove of it.
Yeah. Turn the Page for me. It's just it goes back to the whole story thing.
It does.
About being on the road and what you're dealing with.
Right. And Bob Seger was wonderful at telling stories, which I like. Ramblin' Man too, and that's one of those just fun up tempo kind of songs.
Yep. He just has so many out there, and
he has a ton. That's one person. If I could see somebody live, I would. He's on my bucket list if I could ever make it.
Well, I can't make you jealous on that one because I haven't seen him live either. So.
Who was your first concert? I got a question for you. Who was your first concert?
My first concert, country or
any, just first ever.
The first concert I can remember going to was Alabama.
That's pretty good. Not too bad for a first concert.
Yeah, they we have a big 4-day rodeo over here every summer in August, and they bring in some amazing acts in Alabama.
Oh, wow.
At a couple of different times, and the first year they were there, I went to that show.
That is awesome. That's a good first show. You're right up there as far as country goes. That's upper echelon right there. Yeah. My first concert, I was 11. And my grandfather took me to see the Rolling Stones.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, outdoor show during the summer.
Wow.
Which he's also taken me to see Rush 3 times. So I'm pretty grateful for all the shows. He's like, yeah, we got to go.
Right. Right. I tell you, I've talked to some other, who was it? There was a Canadian singer. I think it was Corey Marks, actually, who Rush played his dad's senior prom.
What?
Yeah, and he's seen them like so many times.
They are phenomenal. Like one of the best shows live that I've ever witnessed. I've seen a lot of shows.
So, and I won't ever get to see the originals now, unfortunately. But I love. I mean, Neil Peart. I dabble with drums, but man, if I could have half the ability to play a set of drums that Neil Peart's got,
I don't know. I don't know how he did what he did.
oh
It
gosh,
still
man.
boggles my mind. And which my grandfather, being a bass player, was all about Geddy Lee. So
Right,
it's just how it was, right?
right, right. It's just some good stuff though, man. You know, the classic rock. We're kind of talking the same language, so I'm right there with you. Um,
Well, you don't know where you're going if you don't know where you've been. So
exactly. Oh man, that's great. I like that. You're absolutely right. Um, I I picked up my sheet here and I saw a question I was going to ask you. Oh, this one here. Now I'm going to go with a particular side of this question.
okay,
If you could have dinner with any artist who is no longer with us and y'all got time to talk, who would that artist be and what would the conversation be?
oh my goodness, that's a lot of options. I guess initially, in my there's so many artists from the past you could go
Right.
with. Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin.
Right.
There's a ton that John Lennon. I mean, John Lennon's a good one.
Yeah. Very
Uh,
good.
I would love to pick his brain. Either sober or on acid, doesn't matter. Just hear what he has to say.
Might be more fun
um,
on acid. You never know.
right, right. But besides John Lennon, I probably hear recently Chris Cornell.
Hmm.
Um, I always was just blown away by his vocals and his ability and range. I would just want to know how the hell could you get that high and sound as cool as you did? So
Yeah,
um, that would be probably the first one on my list is Chris Cornell from Soundgarden.
that's a great one, man. That's another one of those. Um, uh,
He was on my bucket list too, and that's one I'm never gonna get to witness in person.
yeah, I know, and we lose so many. Some of them we've lost in the past couple of years that we just didn't, we shouldn't have, but we did, and then you
Right.
go further
And,
back.
and if I was gonna go non-music artist, it would definitely be Robin Williams.
Oh, golly.
It,
I've
with,
watched so many, every movie. I've watched his stage videos of him being,
I loved him as a person, and it would be I would go back in time and tell him, it's okay. I love you. You don't need to do this. Try to talk him
yeah,
out of it is what I do.
right,
But
exactly.
you don't know what people are dealing with personally in their own personal lives.
Yeah,
Um, and people, I feel like they can't talk to nobody, or they just keep it all pinned up inside them. And if you don't let it out in some form of fashion, and I think that's why people do songwriting. And I know that's why I did it. Is it's definitely a form of therapy for me, and you know it helps me get across what I'm not really so good with words. When it comes to stressful, tough stuff. So it's definitely a way for me to release some of that.
right. And it is. I mean, I don't write music. I play a little bit, and I can pick you out a title all day long if you want
Right.
a title. I'll
You need to
pick it
go on a game show.
up. Yeah, they need to make one for that. Oh, what was that one? Was it Songland? Is that the one that
Oh yeah, the
we got
songwriting one.
Champagne Night? Yeah, I got Champagne
Hmm.
Night, and FGL got one of their songs off of. And golly, who's the Nashville songwriter that is on there? That just is it Shane? Shane
Shane
McNally? Yeah.
McAnally. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I could go in there and give them a title if they can write the
And
song,
that's
but the
just hey, you got a title. That's half the battle right there.
I can make it up, but I don't think it'd be good enough to pass anybody's list there. Um, so I mean, I try to help artists out. I've got I think that's the main social for all of your stuff on there. Jacob Melton Music, is
Yeah,
that
that's right. Except for Twitter, which is Melton Music, but I
okay?
also got a website, jacobmelton.com.
Okay,
You can get to my merch. Working with a company out of Pennsylvania that helped me design it, and made it available online. Since
okay,
I ain't really getting to play out a whole lot. I did get to open for Randy Houser this past Saturday, which was pretty
Right.
awesome.
I was going to bring that up.
Oh,
That's-
I ruined the
No,
segue into the.
no, because I wanted to know how that show was. I got to meet Randy, and
I
he's just
did.
a cool dude.
So we hung out. Me and Randy hung out after he got done. We talked, and I'd actually met him at a lake marina.
Mm-hmm.
I guess maybe 3 or 4 months before, towards the end of summer, right? Early fall. I met him and introduced myself, and told him, "Hey, I think I'm playing the show with you. Looking forward to it." And then I was up in the artist area only portion of the building Saturday, and I said, "Hey, Randy, how's it going?" He's like, "Jacob, right?" So like, for him to even just remember my name, I was like, well, that's kind of cool,
Yeah.
But he's a super awesome dude, really nice, killer show. He is top notch. I feel like he is, one of the few, true cowboys still left in Nashville. As far as his sound and just the way he, presents himself, it's very refreshing still to see him doing that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, he's a very down to earth guy. I mean,
He is very. I think. He's from Mississippi anyway, I believe, and so he's definitely Southern grown. That's for sure.
Yeah, well, ain't nothing wrong with that at all.
I concur.
So, all right, they can go to Jacob Melton Music. They can go to the website jacobmelton.com. They can get to all your other links through there as well.
Right.
Want them to check out your merch.
Yeah.
So,
Here, I got a T-shirt.
Oh, look at there.
You like my logo?
That's awesome, man. I like that.
Ain't too bad.
It's got a little throwback look to it too.
I know it is very retro, which with my mix of rock and kind of classic, I think it kind of suits me. So.
Yeah, that's good. I like that logo a lot, man.
Thank you.
Go get you some merch of Jacob's. Also, be sure to check him out. He's on Spotify. He's on Apple iTunes. You got Pandora mixed up in there too, yeah?
Pandora, Amazon, anywhere digitally, YouTube. If you stream music on some platform, I'm there.
Well, and go listen to him because you're not going to be disappointed. And there'll be some more songs coming out.
Absolutely. Within the year, I promise to have, people keep asking me because I put out like tidbits, on Instagram or whatever, just a minute long or whatever, a verse and a chorus. And people keep asking, "Oh, when you gonna release that? And when you gonna, put that out?" And I'm like, I'm working on it. I got to get it all together, but I promise it's coming.
I just saw you put one up. What was it? Not too long ago. You had.
Oh yeah, I put it's called Someday Somehow.
Yeah.
And it's definitely. I'm not super good at love songs, but I just wanted to prove to everyone that I could write one. So I ended up writing a love song, and it turned out pretty good. It was co-written with another dude. That I hadn't even actually met in person. It was an online co-writing, actually the first one I'd ever done. A guy named Mike Callie. But we hit it off, and it just had a good vibe to it, so we just roll with it.
Now, I know we were kind of in a mode of wrapping up, but you just brought something to my mind that I should have asked you earlier. Do you do a lot of co-writes, or do you write a lot of stuff on your own?
I feel like right now, I have used to, it was all me, early on until I met, got with Adam, and it was all just me,
right?
My stuff. And, with him and we've, I wrote songs with, one of the last song on the EP, How I'm Made, was written with Adam and a guy named Matt Warren, who's written stuff for, Gary Allan. And, so I kind of, started being open to the idea of sharing, because I have a ton of like songs that I started, right? Like I get somewhere and then you just have writer's block, or you put it down for a while and you don't pick it back up for a long time. So what I've really done is kind of just bring, especially to these guys that have been around music for a long time, I bring, the starts that I've got or any ideas, what I'm kind of feeling. And if something strikes somebody a certain way, then we kind of just run with it.
Right.
Is how a lot of the co-writes and stuff. But right now it's probably 50-50.
Well, and I know with the climate of the world right now, the Zoom rights and the online things.
I'm okay with it, but I don't prefer it. Like there's just something about being in a room with other people and feeling that energy in person.
Oh yeah. Gotta have somebody to bounce those ideas off of, and sometimes you can't do it in Zoom. You just can't.
Yeah, no, you talk over people sometimes, but in person, and I'm the type of person, I don't get offended easily, and to really have the best songs that you can possibly write, you can't take everything personal. You want the best song, so you got to put your ego aside and be willing to take criticism, and that's whenever you typically come out on top.
Well, there's a great word of wisdom for a lot of artists that are looking at you going, I really want to do that one these days.
It's hard because I feel very vulnerable because you're worried sometimes, like, man, if I say a suggestion or whatever, you're like, man, that was stupid, or somebody else might go, oh, that sucks, I don't like that,
Yeah.
But I've come to the point to where like I'm fine with that. I'm just gonna throw it out there. Maybe if they see the same thing that I'm seeing, then it's it's probably the right thing. Or if not, then there's something better out there that we need to say.
Right. Exactly. That's a good point too. A very good point. So,
but if you find something, once you find lines, especially if you're in there with more than one person, if all three, if you come up with that line and the other two people are like, oh yeah, I like that, then you're building something.
Right. Yeah, it's ready to take off from there.
But you got to be willing to get shot down to get into those rooms with those people.
Well, my man, I tell you what, like I said, I'm really digging your music, and I hope a lot of people are going to go and listen to it, and definitely want them to get over and buy some merch, because right now it's a tough time. I mean, that Randy Houser show is probably the first one you've done in quite some time.
It is. Besides, I've done a few like songwriter rounds in town, but as far as like an actual show, that's been the first one in a long time. So hopefully I can build off of it. Make some connections, and people hopefully turn some heads the other night, and I can build off of it. And plus, right, just a resume builder, for an opportunity in the future.
Well, my man, good luck with that, and I'm looking forward to hearing a lot of great things from you, because, like I said, I'm definitely in your corner. So,
well, I appreciate that, and you can hang out in my corner every day.
Well, man, I thank you for that, because there may come a day, where we're
you holler at me.
Nashville.
I'll hook you up, okay? If you're ever in Nashville and I got a show going on, you're in.
That sounds great, brother. I tell you what, we try to get down there about around 4 times a year, but of course with COVID, it's just killed us.
Well, you're not going to get the whole experience. I don't know if you've ever been to Whiskey Jam.
I have not, and I really want to go.
That is one of the things, like, especially if you're an aspiring, unknown or independent artist, like you want to make one of those shows. You want to play Whiskey Jam, and I finally got to do that. I didn't do full band, but it was only like 3 or 4 songs, but I did, an acoustic up there by myself. I got to play Whiskey Jam, I guess a month and a half ago now, but it's not the same experience. Nashville right now is, especially whenever I was playing, was, you could have all your seating, right? But everybody had to stay seated. Once all the seating was full, that you couldn't, there wasn't no standing around, right? You couldn't have additional people. And used to Whiskey Jam, you just pack in there like sardines.
Oh yeah.
And it's a party, but at the same time, it was probably a little better because everybody's sitting down and actually listening to the songs themselves.
Right.
And so I think it was it's a double-edged sword for sure.
It is, but it's a great one to go to. So that's definitely one that we have not
Put
done yet.
anybody that goes to Nashville, you gotta put Whiskey Jam, because that's something. It's a free event.
Yeah.
So why not go to it? Especially, you never know who's going to show up at Whiskey Jam.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. I mean,
you could have Luke Combs just hanging out at a table, enjoying himself, on a random Monday or Thursday. So.
Yeah, people love to just go in there and sit and listen to, again, new artists, want to check them out, see who the competition coming up is going to be, so to speak.
That's right. Well, and this is something I've learned when you talk about competition is I don't look to the people that that are unsigned, that are playing with me at shows. I don't have any animosity or see them as competition, because I'm looking at the people that are already on radio, that are already being played all over the country and other places, as my competition. Right. And that's who I want to be competing against.
Right. And there's, a lot of people don't know the insides and outs of a radio station, but you only got so many slots you can put a song in.
It depends on, your rotation, but you're looking at, anywhere from 35 to 65 songs, on a rotation. That's pretty much max, unless you're a secondary independent radio station where you just play whatever you want all the time. But, these owned radio stations only allow so many slots, so
they do.
It's a tough world.
You got to get in there. So
hopefully, I'm built for it.
You're heading that way, man. So we'll definitely keep our ears open. And again, check him out, Jacob Melton. It's jacobmelton.com, or check him out at Jacob Melton Music on Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff, and go just support him. I mean, that's what we want you to do. I'm asking you to support him, and go listen to him, give him a thumbs up, tell him you like him, and keep an ear out for more great stuff from Jacob. Jacob, man, thanks for taking time out of your night to hang with me. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you having me. Thank you.
Anytime, brother. You just
hey, I promise. I promise I'll be back.
All right, that sounds great, man. All right, that's Jacob Melton on Before Nashville, and be sure to follow Before Nashville on all the same platforms. We're on Spotify, we're on Apple iTunes, we're everywhere that you get all your great podcasts from. So make sure that you're a part of that. So we want you to be in there and give us a thumbs up, tell us how much you like it, and tell Jacob the same thing. Just tell him, hey man, we want to be right there with you. So all right, it's Jacob Melton on Before Nashville. Jacob, thank you, brother.
Appreciate it. Have a good one.
You too.